We now begin our second session, Strategic Partnerships in Geological Exploration. This session will be moderated by Mr. Kimmo Tiilikainen, Director General at Geological Survey of Finland, JTK. We invite our distinguished speakers to take their seats. Mr. Yerlan Galiyev, Head of the National Geological Survey of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Mr. Francisco Igualada, Senior Mining Specialist at the World Bank. Dr. Karen Hanghøj, Director of the British Geological Survey, Head of BGS. Mr. Hassan Al-Marzouki, Director of Planning and Development, Saudi Geological Survey, SGS. Mr. Christophe Poinceau, Deputy Managing Director, French Geological Survey, BRGM.
Distinguished speakers, panelists, and all persons gathered here together, ladies and gentlemen, it is a real honor to moderate this panel session. Thank you for the invitation. The panelists were just introduced, and I would just add that this high-level panel and each partner in this, they really represent the most advanced geological surveys or other organizations worldwide. And they will definitely play a very crucial part when the world is looking for the critical raw materials, and especially when we are looking for how the critical raw material resources could be turned into the profitable projects worldwide. So we will start this panel by giving the floor to CEO Yerlan Galiyev from National Geological Survey of Kazakhstan, like setting the scene with few slides, and then we try to figure out without any slides. But Yerlan, please, floor is yours.
Yes, today when Mr. Bekturov, he mentioned our resources and our richness in that term, I just wanted to give you some numbers that just for reference for you to understand the amount of deposits and the amount of reserves in Kazakhstan. Of course, for the base metals, for copper, for ferroalloys, etc., we are quite rich. But however, I wanted to talk today more about rare earth metals, because yes, today that's the very hot topic. Everyone knows about that, everyone talks about that. And in terms of rare earth metals, Kazakhstan is quite rich, but at the same time quite undeveloped, and we see a lot of potential in that area. And currently there are several companies working already in that term, and of course Kov Capital is very active in that area, but also some German companies, some Korean companies who are looking into the opportunities of developing rare earth metals industry in Kazakhstan. And we understand that in order for those investors to work comfortably in Kazakhstan, we need to be as transparent and as easy as possible. So for that regard, our government, they are forcing the full digitization of different areas of Kazakhstan's politics. And in geology, there are several direct tasks from the president that we need to digitize. We need to increase the knowledge of the geology in certain areas. And for that, we've started the process of digitization of the geological data. And here you can see that the amount of data, of the primary data, secondary data that we have stored in our geostorages. However, for us, the key part in the digitization process is not just scan the data, because scanning is usually not enough. That's just a picture. But for us, the big important factor is to turn this data into machine readable format, in order for that later on to use it by the companies to put that data into the specific software like Micromine, like Leapfrog, like Petrel, etc. And then later on to use that data to build some models, to calculate reserves, and to pinpoint the prospective areas. And so the government, they've started this project, which is called the Acceleration Project. And it started for us, for the GeoSurvey, it started in October 21. And during these about 6 months, we've reached some results. So we are currently already have a prototype for the text and for the tables in order for that to be recognized and turned into the machine learned format. But we are not going to stop on that because for us the big challenge is going to be to turn not just text and tables, but also the maps, the diagrams, the logs, etc., to turn them into the machine-readable format. And we are on that journey, and we are currently working with several companies in that, both in Kazakhstan, both abroad. And but the idea is that we take that data in the machine-learned format and we put it into the platform for everyone in the world to be able to download it, to use it. And so this process have actually been announced a long time ago in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, when the government, they said, okay, guys, we need to have a good platform for everyone to be able to do any processes online. But last year, from the summer of the last year, we've partnered with a local Kazakhstani company. It's a subsidiary of the Ministry of the Finance. And we've started the process of building that platform. And now it's working. So basically, any person in all over the world, they can apply for the license. And I know that there are some cases that a person who was sitting in the hotel in Thailand, he was able to go to the platform and apply for the license. And later on, and after some certain time, he acquired that license. So you can do it online. And this project is, like I said before, we're working with the Ministry of Finance. But for us, the big and important task is to convert our geologists from just being geologists, geophysicists, etc., to convert them to being also the specialists in data science. Because nowadays, all the databases, all the big data, you require to have some knowledge in data science. And we are working in that area too. If you go to the science, this year we have several project plans and it's going to be the ongoing projects. For the digitization, we need to build a big and modern, contemporary digital map of Kazakhstan. We've had some digital maps in the past, but usually the quality and the scale was not enough. So this year we want to build that map. Also, like every map for every geologist, you know that when you look at the map, you need to understand that all the colors, they correspond with certain like ages. So this is the gray is carbon, the green is devon, etc. So for that reason, we need to unify all of our geological templates and standards. In that regard, we had a conversation with Francisco earlier on this year. And we're also working currently with the British Geological Survey. So at this moment, there are several specialists from the British Geological Survey who are right now in Kazakhstan, in Astana, and they're working with our specialists in those projects. And like in the end, I just wanted to say that that Geological Survey of Kazakhstan is very young. It's been established only in 2022, and you cannot do that alone. That's a big and cumbersome task. So in that regard, we have seen huge support from different geological surveys, different international organizations, and that's not all of them, but just to name a few. Kimmo from Geological Survey of Finland, we've had, I think like in 2 years, we have our relationship. First time we've met each other in Brussels during the Raw Materials Week. At the same event, I also met with DERA, with Agency of Germany for the critical raw materials. I've had a conversation with Americans, with Canadians, with French, etc., etc. So we have a very good partnership with different geological surveys, and we are working with them in different directions. And we think that these kind of events like PDAC, like Future Minerals Forum in Riyadh, that was in the January, and I had a very good discussion with the chairman of the Geological Survey of Saudi Arabia there, that these kind of events are very important for us because geology is something, it's a science and it's a world science. And you cannot do that alone, so you need help from your friends. So thank you very much to my friends and my colleagues for that big support. Thank you.
Thank you, Yerlan. Thank you for opening the situation in Kazakhstan and setting the scene for our discussion. I would first like to turn to Karen Hanghøj. So you are internationally very experienced in the field of geosciences, and once we have heard here about the huge potential that there is in Kazakhstan and in some other corners of the world as well, so how do you see, what are the cornerstones of geoscientific work that you just have to put in place in order to dream a big flow of investments?
Thank you, Kimmo. Is the microphone working? Yes. Thank you for that question. And actually, Yerlan has sort of introduced quite a bit of it in the slides. Thank you for that. And actually, at the very opening of this morning's session, we heard about the sort of 4 pillars of the mineral strategy for Kazakhstan, starting with geological maps. And that is a really, really fundamental thing that we need, not just for minerals, but for everything. You know, we need it for groundwater, we need it to be able to think about hazards and our livelihoods. So that is a really important thing that the Geological Survey sort of needs to deliver. Quite importantly, and sort of hand in hand with that, of course, is the data, which we also sort of heard about in the 4 pillars, in a way empowering that downstream and making stakeholders aware of the opportunities. You need to be able to share data, and that's what Yerlan very, very strongly touched on. So data delivery, data management, data stewardship is really, really important, and at the core of what a geological survey and the government actually really needs to deliver. And there are many different ways, of course, of thinking about this. That there's the collection of the data. Do you have the data that you need? But once you have it, how do you make it available in a form that is useful to your stakeholders? And the stakeholders can be investors, it can be mining companies, it could also be decision makers who are giving permits and things like that. And so there's a tension between, do we license data? Do we make it freely available? Which way do we see the most benefit from the data? And I think a lesson learned from having seen this play out in many different countries around the world is actually that the more easily you can share your data, the more freely you can make it available, the more value it will create. Maybe not in the immediate term, but sort of in the slightly longer term. So I think that is sort of what I want to say initially.
Thanks a lot, Karen. And if I would like to summarize your message, I would say that the most important infrastructure to attract investments in mineral sector is geo-information, geodata infrastructure. That's the first to start with. Okay, so in Saudi Geological Survey, you have been running huge exploration program when mapping the Arabian Shield, and you have many partners, international partners as well. It has been an honor to work with you from Geological Survey of Finnish side. And Hassan Al-Marzouki, you are Director of Planning and Development of Saudi Geological Survey. Could you please tell us what are the main challenges you have met in this huge program, and what are your thoughts about the coming challenges in future? You have started to create something very big.
All right. Thank you, Kimmo, and thank you for having me here today. Actually, no. Very well, we start to make a big exploration and survey in the kingdom since 2018, and we work to a lot of partners because individually we can't do anything. That's why we go to other geological survey like GTK in data management, in quality insurance for the data. Also with BGS in some field in medical geology, something like that. Actually, you have a lot of challenge. For example, the geoscientists, you have a shortage of geoscientists in the kingdom. I don't know about the other geog survey, but we need to solve this problem to, support academia to diversity in, different field of geoscientists. This is one important thing. And the other thing about the data management, as the Karen said, is very important. Today you have also shortage for people who interpret the data. That can help us, in geophysics. Today you have a huge data from the survey, airborne geological survey, but you have less people, to do the analysis. That's why, you have a benefit from GTK and other geological survey to do that. That's why today, maybe Kazakhstan geological survey can benefit from SGS, what we have done in the last 5 years. Also, the government now established a new national geoscience for mineral, especially for strategic mineral and critical minerals. This established last year, and they have lots of initiatives. Also, can work together with our partners and to attract, investors, to attract people in exploration, junior companies around the world.
So thank you for opening these challenges. And when we are speaking about the strategic partnership in the field of exploration and geosciences, we are also thinking about the new technologies in the future. So how we can enhance the exploration and bring the best results. So Christophe Poisson from French Geological Survey, BRCM, France is very advanced in the high-level science in the field of geosciences. I would say that most often when, for example, my organization is looking for Horizon Europe research funds, we are partnering with BRCM. That's just statistics. But you're also developing new thoughts about the National Exploration Program that is part of the Critical Raw Material Act from EU side. Each country is doing that. So could you please tell something about the new ideas or technologies or digital solutions? What you can tell us about that? And then you have also been president of Geological Survey very recently. What kind of benefit you see of the cooperation you have recognized within European geological surveys?
Thank you, Kimmo, for the introduction. So, in fact, you may imagine that as BRGM, within a country with a long history of mines operation, we have a very good knowledge of our subsurface. But in fact, it's not the case. The knowledge of our subsurface resources is quite old, obsolete, I will say. And it's due to the fact that we basically stopped the exploration 40 years ago. So we have to restart this action. It's very important in the global framework we already described. And the aim is to be able to have a wider exploration program. I mean, to be able to cover all the elements of interest, all the critical raw materials that are needed for the future technologies, low carbon technologies, digital technologies, and so on. The aim is to go deeper. At that time, in the past, we were only able to get information on the first 200 meters depth. The aim right now is to be able to be down to 1 kilometer depth, thanks to the airborne geophysics. And it's probably one of the key already points, being able to implement some innovative, more accurate technologies for the airborne geophysics, which is part of the data we need for the exploration program. The other part being the geochemistry, so the stream sediments analysis and so on. But we already get some very good experience regarding the geochemical analysis, I guess. The aim is also to be able to go faster. In the past, once again, it takes decades to be able to get a broad image of what you can have in the subsurface as resources. The objective right now is to be able to get such kind of information in a few years. So it means that we need to invest a lot in the way we interpret the data. I will say in the way we cross-interpret the data, because we need to interpret together the geology, the geochemistry, the geophysics, and so on. And there is a real challenge in this domain, and a very specific place for all the technology based on I8, which have a clear role to play. And it's something on which we really want to invest, and I know that probably some of the people in the room, and at least some of the companies here at the PDAC are already developing some very strong effort in this domain. And back to your last question, it's also probably one point on which it's very interesting to have a partnership of different geological surveys, and Eurogeo surveys at the European scene is one of them, because it means that we can share the expertise, we can share the know-how, we can share also the development of these innovative technologies, which are very relevant and mandatory, in fact, if we want to be able to face the challenge of providing the critical raw material in due time in order to be able to meet the challenge of the climate change mitigation. So it's a very motivative and ambitious program. And for sure, all what we are developing in France and in Europe and whatever is also available for being implemented in other countries. And we have discussions with Yerlan and Kazakhstan to see how we can also support that development. And we are very proud to be part of also the challenge you're targeting in your country.
Thank you, Christoph. So, in the previous panel, Madalina Ivanitsa from the EU, when she was telling about the Critical Raw Material Act, she was looking for the partnership in the midstream and downstream potential to building value chain. And Sven-Uwe Schulz, you are Deputy Director of German Mineral Resources Agency, DERA, and Germany is definitely the main industrial player in Europe. So when we now have this partnership between EU and Kazakhstan, what kind of actions you are expecting to see when implementing this partnership, and are there opportunities to build common value chains from your point of view?
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. Am I? Oh yeah, very good. So thanks again for the invitation. Yes, what kind of actions can we foresee? I don't want to talk about the crystal ball where we look in for the near future or so, but I think the very first thing that we will see is an increase of exchange, not only on this institutional level that we have here in this distinguished panel, at least on the scientific side, but also, and that's very important, on the industrial side, where companies have to come together and exchange and bring in the question, what is the one side, the industry, Germany and the EU needing, so what kind of materials are needed and what amount and what speciality, what level on the value chain, and so on and so on. And on the other hand, what are Kazakh companies offering? So we try to implement on a very, very low level and very, very carefully at the very beginning to bring these companies together on the German side and the Kazakh side over the last 2 years. And we saw that there is, of course, interest on the one hand and interest on the other hand to other things, but there needs to be a little bit adjusted the common understanding of what the one side is offering, the other side is wanting. So exchange and communication is key, I would say, and in the very first step. And then, of course, we need, on top of the already mentioned scientific data things and programs and projects, we need information about the value chains and about the opportunities to develop maybe some facilities and capacities to bring these raw materials that are in the ground at first and that are off the ground in the form of some concentrates and things like that, into a form that can be used into the far developed industry in Europe and of course in Germany as well, because nobody puts the concentrate of a mine directly into a car. There are several steps beside, and everybody knows that we have several bottlenecks over the globe if it comes to bring these materials into these forms. And I see or foresee some action in exchange and in real projects in bringing this into real existing supply chains, not only value chains, but also supply chains between Kazakhstan and the EU. Of course, there are some challenges, but I'm very, very positive that we will see them solved in the coming years.
Thank you for your encouraging insight in this sense. So now I would like to turn to World Bank. World Bank is a very, very important organization supporting development worldwide. And now when we have recognized this huge need to bring more critical raw materials available to support digitalization, energy transition, and other high-level technologies. So I would like to ask Francisco Igualada, expert from World Bank, what kind of thoughts you have, how you could support developing critical minerals forward, and when you have heard all these wishes and challenges from the panel, so how you could perhaps support these ideas forward.
Thank you. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this meeting. Coming back to your question, which is, I would say, very critical, the World Bank offers a long-term partnership for developing not only one part of the mining cycle or one part of the value chain, but the full mining cycle and the full value chain. This is the principle. How? The World Bank, everybody knows, is not an organization that has no profit. It's a bank. And the World Bank offers what we call investment project finance. And this is the mechanism that we have discussed also with Kazakhstan and with other partners, of course, to develop the sector in a proper way. Another thing that the World Bank offers in the partnership is credibility. Very important because sometimes the mining sector needs, or certain countries are requiring some level of certification, some level of credibility. And in this context, we have, let's say, considered, in the case of Kazakhstan, we have considered 8 points that I just put there in this slide. 8 points. The first one is the most important: how we can develop the mining sector without pre-competitive data. This is, but good pre-competitive data, good information that can be analyzed, that can be processed, and so on. Then this data, as the director of the Kazakhstan Geological Survey mentioned, this data needs to be prepared, needs to be organized, needs to be standardized. And this is also an element that we sometimes forget. We talk about open dissemination and so on and so forth, but the real quality of the data, not only the quality of the vector information which is contained, but the quality of the analytical data, which is also an element to consider. Then another thing that we are also considering, or we are trying to offer in this particular context, is to reanalyze the geology. For instance, what I mean, reanalyze the geology and the metallurgy. For instance, I just give you the example of Peru. I'm working also in Peru. In Peru, they have very good metallogenic belts, very well defined, nothing to do. However, we are trying to apply a new concept, mineral systems approach, to revise the existing data in a different way so that we could identify some potentialities that were hidden or were not really so evident with the methods. Then also another thing that we would like to consider, because people talk about resources, but sometimes there is no a good analysis of resources, not only the existing, but also the undiscovered resources. And this is something that we really like to consider in the future. We know that in the past, in 2011, the USGS helped Kazakhstan to develop a project on undiscovered mineral resources, which was very, very useful. But this needs to be updated. This is something that needs to be. Another important thing is prospectivity. How we can attract junior explorers. Junior explorers will come if the land, if the area, the concessions or the potential concessions are really attractive. How we can bring this? For instance, I would like maybe to make a parenthesis if I don't want to extend too much, but I just heard that the 5 pillars of the European Union critical raw materials are very good. However, I would like to highlight one point. How many junior companies are in Europe? I don't talk about UK. How many junior companies are in Europe? And this is key. How can we develop the sector without junior companies? They are the seed, they are the origin of everything. So this science is forgotten, and in this particular case, I don't know, maybe it's not politically correct to say, but this is important. It's very, very important, not only in the European Union, all the countries, to develop the junior sector, or the junior sector in a way that they will feel confident and they will really be. This is sometimes one of the characteristics of the World Bank support, is to support those countries to really build a kind of business infrastructure oriented to the junior sector. This is just one point. And then just I don't want to divert myself too much, but the other thing is valuation. Valuation. How we can talk about exploration, transactions, and so on, when we do not really know the value. How we can imagine that you find something tomorrow in Kazakhstan and with a few boreholes, with not really too much information, and then you need to attach a value to this. This is also critical, very, very critical, to establish this kind of valuation methodologies. And of course, the final thing is training, as has been said. Also, the bank does offers training, and one thing that also I have not heard, but is very important: analysis of criticality. Which are the critical minerals, the real critical minerals for a specific country? The European Union has done analysis of criticality. Canada has done, China has done also, many countries have done their own. In Peru, I'm talking about just a recent example, in Peru we started with this. And what was the problem? The problem was the statistics. How we can get real statistics to apply a criticality analysis adapted to Peru? I leave just this question open because it's important for the critical raw materials perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, thank you, distinguished panelists, for your insights. And I would like to congratulate Kazakhstan and National Geological Survey, because it seems that you have very good partners. So, I think that we are very soon closing this panel, but I need to turn to Yerlan. When you opened this and told about your plans, just 30-second comments about what you have heard from the panel.
Thank you, Kimmo. What I wanted just to say in the end, that today was several times mentioned by different panelists, that geodata is the key, and I fully support that. I think that you can say for the mining engineer, when he does his job correctly, he produces ore, for instance, and he measures his work in the tons of ore. Petroleum engineer, he's gonna extract oil and gas, and he's gonna measure his success in the amount of barrels of oil or gas. But for the geologist, we measure our success in the amount of data that we acquire during our work. So I think that Kazakhstan, we have lots of data that we already have. We have lots of data that we need to acquire in the future. And I want just to say for everyone who is here in the auditorium that geodata is the key. And please help us by investing and by exploration help us obtain more data. Geologists is always very greedy for data, so we need more, please. And the last thing that I wanted to mention that, of course, here we have our colleagues from the European Union, from the North America, from Saudi Arabia, etc. But we want to develop not just the geoscience and geological survey of the Kazakhstan, but also the geosurveys of the Central Asian region. And for that, we plan to have a separate meeting, separate event in Kazakhstan. We want to invite all of our colleagues from Central Asian countries. And we're going to start this kind of work in June on AMM, Astana Mining and Metals. So we invite all of you, if you want to not just talk with Kazakhstan, but also to talk with other Central Asian countries in terms of geology, to come to Kazakhstan in June. And later on, we'll keep all of you in touch. And we want to become a country in that region who is like a bridge between the OECD countries and the Central Asian countries in terms of geology. Thank you, Kimmo.
Thank you. And we are closing this panel just saying that the importance of geodata is very well understood. Thank you.
Dear panelists,